All right, so here's class 17. It's the lecture part of it. I'll keep the one in our online class a little shorter so that we can get to an example and keep it an abbreviated class. So here's going to be the lecture portion in its entirety. I included this one because we want to have a dynamics review. It's been a while for most people. And rigid body acceleration, rigid body kinematics, and particularly the acceleration is it's a tough topic to be able to cover in undergraduate dynamics, and because there's just not enough time, and it really requires you to do a lot of different problems before that the concepts and will stick. So here we go. As dynamics review, we always start with position, then find velocity and get acceleration. That's just the bottom line here. In position, we do with a position vector, where we take some reference, using A in this case, and we take the derivative of, let's say I said the position vector, where we have the reference, and then we have the interrelationship between them to find the thing we want to know. In this case, it would be the point B. You take the time derivative of that position vector, and we're able to get the velocity, which we know this the relative velocity here of v b with respect to a is actually omega crossed with the relative position vector right here. If we take the time derivative of this result that we have up here, we're going to be able to get the acceleration, and we happen to know that's going to be the acceleration of A is the reference plus the time derivative of what's in here. But now we have to do the product rule, right? Because both the omega and potentially both the omega is changing with respect to time and the position is changing with respect to time. So what we end up with is we're going to have this alpha crossed with RB with respect to A. And then we're going to have omega still, right? So this is the product rule, crossed with B, VB with respect to A, right? Which we happen to know up here already. Ooh, boy, this thing stuck to each other. We already happen to know that was true right here. So we substitute this back in there, and we're going to see that we have omega crossed with omega. But first, you have to go across it with the relative position vector. So we have this term. And this is what acceleration is for 3 dimensions, but also for 2 dimensions. We could simplify that because the k's are, the omega is always about k. So what's going to turn out to be is going to be minus omega squared, the magnitude of omega, times the relative position vector, and you notice that minus that shows up. And so what that's really saying is that's the centrifugal acceleration, right? So if you have a link right here, and that ends up being the position vector, when you're done with it, when you've done that component of it, the acceleration of this point is in the negative r direction. So that's the centrifugal acceleration right there, is pointing towards the center, omega squared times r. But we also note, so that's the normal acceleration, right? In the, like we like to call it. And this other one is the tangential, right? So this is like a generic expression that try to express the different components, or the breakdown of what this whole thing right here is the relative acceleration. All of that really is A, B with respect to A, right? But there's a tangential component and a normal component. That's really the thing that makes it kind of a little more tricky to solve. Things in which we might note, so there can still be acceleration of point B even if the acceleration of A is 0. Right? Even if it's like a fixed point. Okay, now this right here, this would be like A, and this would be B. There could still be even if A was fixed right here, there could still be acceleration of b. And even if the alpha right here was 0, there could still be acceleration of b, as long as there's an omega, right? But otherwise, we would have this acceleration of b with respect to a normal, and this would be acceleration of b with respect to a tangential. And we could see what that they were equaling, these two things right there. Well, yeah, this guy right here, right there and there. And we note that, as I mentioned, rotational acceleration, the rotational portion of the acceleration here has two components. Remember that we're still breaking down this rigid body motion into translation and rotation. Right. Remember, that's the rule. What we know about rigid bodies is they could be their motion could be described by a combination of translation and rotation. And so, just to cross our I's and dot our T's, we have we know this to be true right here. And quite often we'll just look for the magnitude. And in the approach that I prefer is to take the 3-diagram approach, where we have the motion that we're experiencing right here, the acceleration that we have, is going to be this translation of, in this case, yeah, it's the velocity of a is the reference right here. And then we pin it about a, we fix it, and then we find what the acceleration components are. And we usually break them down into x's and y's portions, right? So there's an x, this guy, the tangential has a x component and a y component, and the normal has an x component and a y component. So this is still true, that relative acceleration here is just like position and velocity. This thing, I'm repeating myself, but that's the gist. And but in the only difference here in this case, this breaks down into two parts, and it makes it a little difficult to use vector triangles because they're not actually triangles, or you could think of them as triangle, but there's this guy right here. This triangle is for this, but then we could break this down into a sub-triangle that's over here on the side, and so totally it's going to be a quadrilateral. It gets kind of confusing to do the vector triangle, so I don't do it. So I'm going to do this example here in another slide. I'm going to do all these examples. All right. So that was the lecture portion of this. I think it's gonna. I just want to try to refresh your memory and try to make a connection back to the class that you had, the dynamics class. So I'm going to end the show and get rid of some of this there. We'll discard that. No, we need to keep it. Now, it's going to be interesting if I do this right here. If I went to camera right here. If I went to camera at the same time so you can see both things. Interesting. But the camera's looking at the wrong spot. That's like on the back. So how do I swap what camera I'm using? I go this one? Close other apps. Oh, I see. I can't use the other one. So never mind. All right. So here is the most useless guitar I own. It's an Ibanez right here. That's a pretty common, it's a pretty good brand. They got some high-end stuff, they got some low-end stuff. This is on the very lowest end, but it came with already this right here. It's called a Korg Chaos. Now there's a mini Chaos pedal, and if you know the band Muse, right, you might have noticed that he has like almost like a little TV window on the near the back of his guitar, and he'll touch it and make it. That's what this thing is right here. But it was all of like a $200 guitar at Guitar Center, and I was pretty impressed by. I was making some noises with it, and let's see, we've got to power up the Chaos. Is it going to power up? Yes, it's loading. Boom. Okay, so do I have it on yet? All right, so it also has a distortion built into it, like a little fuzz distortion built into the thing. Did I put my pick away? Yeah, I did. Oh, and by the way, today's shirt is brought to you by Festivus. Festivus for the rest of us. All right, so it's not a great guitar. I can't play guitar. But then if I turn on, I think this is the distortion. So I can turn the distortion up or down. So it's like a ratty distortion. You kind of need it though, because it has to drive this guy. So what this is going to do, I'm going to flip this on right here, and now it's going to go through the chaos. So you almost need to see me doing this right here as I come through here. So I got to I'll play just stuff with just left-handed. Oops. To slip. Ready to go. And that's only like the high pass filter. There's a bunch of other different things on here. Let's see. Let's see. So I haven't played with this thing in a long time. A lot of them sound the same. This one's called vowel filter. I told you it's useless. That one's called vinyl break. So when you touch on the thing, like if you just hit it. There you go. I can't play like that. But see, most useless guitar I know. And that's probably the most I've played with it in about 3 years. It just sits around. But you can't sell it for anything. Nobody wants to buy it. And but it's kind of fun to mess with and show people. I'm like, hey, look at this useless thing I have. So anyway, that was your reward for I don't know if that's a reward for making it through to the end of this video.